So hello guys, welcome back to CHIMOTOFU Fiction. If you enjoyed the video, so give likes and subscribe. So let's start the story. The Hokage's maid, Uzumaki Naruto, the 7th Hokage, was a happy man. He had finally achieved his lifelong dream, protected the world, and made a name for himself. Now, if only his wife would stop calling him Hokage-sama. Pairing Naruto's Grafia, the Hokage's maid, Hokage-sama. A voice called out, stern but soft at the same time. Zzz, Hokage-sama. This is most improper. The voice called out again, and a woman stepped into the office. She looked to be in her early 20s, with waist-length silver hair in a ponytail. Her attire consisted of formal office wear, a white shirt, and a black pencil skirt. Her beauty had an otherworldly, ethereal quality to it, as if she were some form of divinity. This was Grafia Uzumaki, formerly Lucifuge, the wife and personal secretary of Naruto Uzumaki, the 7th Hokage of Konohagakure. She wanted to become his maid instead, but had relented after a red-faced, sputtering refusal by her husband. Her husband, who was currently sleeping on the job. Soft silver eyes gazed lovingly at the sleeping man, taking in his appearance. A tall and well-built figure, with short blonde hair, and if he weren't sleeping, one could see the most beautiful azure eyes sparkling with amusement. At least to her, anyway. Zzz, her delicate silver eyebrows twitched in annoyance as Naruto refused to wake up. Deciding to try a different approach, she walked across the room to where he was sleeping. As she neared him, Grafia could see the piles of paperwork on his desk. Even if Naruto had dozens of clones working on paperwork, the heap still miraculously replenished itself. Despite all her experience as a secretary, Grafia was still at a loss regarding this problem. She reached Naruto, who showed no indication of being aware of her presence. Was this really the Hokage, the strongest shinobi in the world? Weren't shinobi supposed to be cognizant of their surroundings at all times? With how deeply her husband slept, he would be an easy target for any assassins foolish enough to challenge him. Arriving next to the sleeping blonde, Grafia leaned down and whispered in his ear. Naruto-kun, don't you want the ramen I made? I made it just for you, she all but purred, hoping for a reaction. All right, I'm up. Where's the ramen? The result was instantaneous. Naruto instantly awoke and jumped upright, narrowly missing Grafia in the process. He then looked around, aware of the environment for the first time after waking. His gaze landed on Grafia, and he processed what had been said. Then, his eyes widened, and he let out a meek whimper. There's no ramen? No, Hokage-sama. I needed to wake you up somehow, Grafia said, back in her stoic persona. However adorable he might look with that teary-eyed pout, she had to remain professional.
How could you do this to me, Fia-chan? Naruto wailed pathetically. You know how much I love ramen, yet you still tricked me. Have you no shame? Atatatata. His rant was cut off in between when Grafia harshly pinched his cheek.
Please act like a man of your status should, Hokage-sama, she admonished him sternly. For once, I agree with your wife, Naruto. Kurama grumbled from within. Your juvenile actions reflect poorly on me, as you are my host. Even if the fox was used to this daily stupidity, it didn't mean he had to like it. Ow ow ow. Okay, Fia-chan. Naruto extricated himself from his wife's hold, but then Mock glared at her. And how many times have I told you? Call me Naruto. I hate honorifics. You're my wife, ya know? Such crass language would be improper coming from one of my station, Hokage-sama. Naruto grumbled incoherently as he set about doing some paperwork. This was always a point of argument among them, one they could never agree upon. Naruto abhorred any titles given to him and thought that his wife, at least, should call him by his name. He preferred it that way, honestly. But Grafia would spout some drivel about decorum and discipline that went way over his head. Naruto was stubborn, but Grafia was even more so. But then Naruto got an idea. What? Grafia gave an uncharacteristic squeak as she was picked up from her position and placed in her husband's lap. Before she could admonish him for his lack of discipline, Naruto placed his head in the crook of her neck and wrapped his arms around her waist from behind. He then proceeded to do his paperwork as if nothing was wrong. Hokage-sama, what is the meaning of this? Grafia asked, blushing slightly. Naruto always managed to fluster her with his spontaneous displays of affection. Whatever do you mean? Naruto asked while signing some documents. You know what I mean, Hokage-sama. She narrowed her eyes at him. She was struggling to maintain her work persona, but her husband was so warm that it was proving to be difficult. She had already relaxed and was cuddling up to Naruto. Naruto looked down at his wife, who was glaring at him with her soft silver eyes. Over the years, Naruto had realized that Grafia didn't like to make their relationship known in public. But that didn't mean Naruto couldn't show his wife some love, did it? I concentrate easily when you're cuddled up to me, Fia-chan. Naruto gave her a cheeky grin. Look, I already signed 6 documents. He gestured excitedly at the papers. Hokage-sama. What if someone walks in? Grafia reasoned. Even your Anbo are watching. Such behavior is unbefitting of the Hokage. However, she made no effort to get out of his hold. Naruto wasn't buying it. There's some other reason, isn't there? He lightly pecked her cheek. You can tell me, dear. If it's really bothering you, I'll release you. His thoughtful reply made things even more complicated for the devil. On the one hand, she was the secretary of the Hokage. She was currently in office hours and had to maintain professionalism. On the other hand, Grafia was, first and foremost, his wife. She was allowed to be affectionate to him, although the environment could be better. And it did not help in the slightest how cuddly her beloved was. Not that she'd ever tell him, she had an image to maintain. After about 2 minutes of not moving, Grafia gently shook her head. It's embarrassing, and I have no desire to let the Anbu or any client intrude on a personal moment. Naruto just hugged his wife tighter, making her wiggle slightly. Ah, that's so cute. That's just Grafia speak for, I'm shy. He rubbed his cheek against her. As for the Anbu, I don't care. They don't dictate how I show love to my wife, Naruto finished, grinning madly. He could practically feel an embarrassed Konohamaru steaming in the corner of the room. Deciding that he'd teased his wife enough, Naruto picked her up again and put her on her feet gently, making her glare at him slightly. She straightened her uniform and gave a small smile, which went unnoticed by him. Nay, Fia-chan, let's go somewhere fun. Grafia sighed in exasperation. Naruto really had the attention span of a sparrow. He was that hyperactive. Hokage-sama, stop procrastinating and finish your paperwork. But it's so boring. Hokage-sama, do you want to eat boiled broccoli for dinner tonight? Kage Bunshin. Instantly, a dozen clones of Naruto appeared and set about doing paperwork at a frantic pace. Grafia twitched again. This was what made him do his work. Not a sense of duty, not protocol, but broccoli. Naruto had an irrational hatred for vegetables, especially broccoli. Exactly how much did Naruto, a person almost incapable of hate broccoli? Enough to make his paperwork clones use senjutsu. Every one of them, including the original, was somehow wearing glasses. Naruto didn't even need glasses. They were warily glancing at Grafia from time to time, hoping that she would rescind her threat. She would not. Hokage-sama, Naruto. Grafia rolled her eyes at her husband. The most powerful shinobi in the world, respected by the entire realm, acted like such a child in her presence. She decided to try a new method, knowing that it would work. It was a cheat she used whenever she needed him to get to work. Dana-sama. Yue? Naruto choked on his spit and looked at his wife, with a heavy blush on his cheeks. Even though he was the one who was teasing her, she still had one weapon. Whenever she called him things like Dana-sama, or beloved, he would get extremely flustered. Naruto didn't know why he had this weakness, but he did. Hey, whipped. Kurama jeered, disgraceful. Shut up, furball. We'll see what happens when you get married. What the? Naruto cut off Kurama as he tried to get his blush under control. Why yes, Fia-chan. He asked with a slight stutter. Damn that weakness for cute names. I have you now. Grafia thought, smirking inwardly as she prepared her final weapon. One that would work without fail. She almost felt bad for using this tactic, but it was for Naruto's own good. Grafia fluttered her eyelashes at Naruto, looking to the ground, and gaining a fake blush on her cheeks. For the finishing touches, she crossed her arms around her back and whispered in a timid voice. Whoa, won't you do the work, Dana-sama? She shyly said, for me. Alarm bells were ringing in Naruto's head by this point. What was this? His wife never acted like this. This shy and cutesy side was a complete contrast to the normal Grafia. Aha! She was tricking him, the minx. She was trying to get him to do the blasted paperwork. He would not relent. He would stand firm. He would. Too much mo. Critical hit. One look at his wife caused all his thoughts of rebellion to bleed out of him. There was no escape now. Naruto had been ensnared by the puppy dog eyes that his wife was looking at him with. Ooh, Naruto muttered helplessly as he deflated and set about doing his work. You can be really mean at times, you know. Did you say something, beloved? Gao, nothing, Fia-chan. Naruto mumbled with red cheeks. She sure didn't hesitate to use her cuteness at every turn for someone who wanted their relationship to remain private. His heart couldn't take the strain, damn it. But he was still the luckiest man in the world to be married to her. Naruto zoned out instantly as he thought about how he met his wife. Not that he needed a reason to zone out. It was about 10 years ago when Kakashi-sensei was the Hokage. Naruto had been meditating in a clearing to practice his senjutsu. He had sensed a different type of energy signature appear in his senses and had gone to explore it. Flashback. 10 years ago Konoha. As he neared the site, Naruto began to see the signs of a massive explosion. Going on guard, he made his way to the epicenter of the crash. In a huge crater, there was the unconscious form of a woman, bleeding severely from various cuts and wounds. She looked like she had been through hell, a fact which Naruto didn't know was true. Naruto had always been an impulsive shinobi, but his experiences in the war had taught him a few tricks. He quickly activated his negative emotion sensing to look for a trap and found none. He went into his Biju cloak and sped back to Konoha Hospital, where Sakura was. Since Tsunade had left on her journey, Sakura was the only medic he could trust. He carried the woman into Sakura's office, where she was thankfully alone. He didn't bother knocking, as he never had before. Sakura-chan, emergency, he said hurriedly, making her look at him. On seeing the situation, her eyes widened. Sakura knew Naruto, probably better than anyone, bar Sasuke. She knew that Naruto was a very kind and caring man, someone who would never hurt a woman anyone, really intentionally. So when Naruto showed up with a bleeding woman in his arms claiming an emergency, she immediately moved them to a room and checked up on the woman. Sakura most certainly did not hit Naruto over the head for supposedly being a pervert. Seriously, who would hit Naruto in such a delicate situation? She used to hit him when he was an idiot, back when she herself was far from a model kunoichi. Hitting him right now would be like criticizing him for helping a woman in need. She wasn't that shallow, damn it. She was a medic. It would mean breaking dozens of rules. Naruto, lay her down here. I'll check her over. Naruto did so and immediately started hounding Sakura for answers. What happened to her, Sakura-chan? Is she going to be okay? What can I do to help? What? Naruto. Sakura cut him off sternly. Stop talking and let me concentrate for a second. With Naruto silent, Sakura started her diagnostic check on the woman. Sakura had to admit, she was already very jealous of this mystery woman. This lady was several times more beautiful than she was, much to her ire.
When Naruto had explained the situation, Sakura had started looking for blunt force trauma, cuts, and the like.
Glowing green palms moved over the mysterious woman's body as Sakura got a read on her condition. There were no life-threatening injuries, just some fractures and cuts. She would live, but there was one glaring problem. This woman had no chakra. Not a drop, which puzzled the medic. Every living being had chakra. It was as necessary to them as blood. This woman was an anomaly, as she had another energy signature in her body. Naruto, go get the Hokage. He needs to see this. What happened, Sakura-chan? Is she going to be okay? Yes, Naruto, she's going to be just fine, she said, making Naruto cheer. But you need to get sensei, and I need to dress her wounds. Then Sakura gained a teasing glint to her eyes. Unless you want to watch me change her clothes. My, Naruto, how bold of you, she gasped. No thanks B. Naruto had already dashed out of the room with a red face. Sakura chuckled softly to herself. He really was like the younger brother she never had. About 10 minutes later, Naruto returned, dragging a disheveled Kakashi in tow. I'm telling you, sensei, this is important, believe it. Mama, Naruto, what's the rush? I was taking a nap. Look. Kakashi looked, and his expression changed in an instant. He scanned the room, and his eyes landed on the unconscious woman. He looked at Naruto, who was bouncing in anticipation, and Sakura was waiting for a reaction. Explain. After being informed of the problem by Sakura, Kakashi mulled over the information. He closed his eyes and thought as he processed the happenings. Then, he turned to Naruto. Good job, my cute student. Kakashi gave him a thumbs up. You've found yourself a real beauty here. Jiraiya-sama would be proud of you, he said, wiping a fake tear from his eye. I know I am. Sensei, be serious. Sakura snapped at him. What do we do about this woman? Well, ordinarily, the protocol would be to send her to the labs for testing. Kakashi interrupted Naruto's indignant shout with a look. But it looks like Naruto has gotten attached to the young woman. So we'll wait for her to wake up. Naruto's dense inquiries were ignored as they waited, talking about their lives and catching up. They were all so busy that such moments of respite were rare. Team 7 intended to make full use of this opportunity. About 20 minutes later, the woman woke up with a gasp. Before any of the shinobi could address her, she frantically looked around and shouted, Euclid. Sakura went towards the woman, but the patient got into a combat stance after seeing the medic approach. Sakura raised her hands in a non-threatening gesture as she pointed to the bandages on the woman. The woman slightly let her guard down and verified that she had indeed been helped by these people. Where am I? You're in Konoha, in the land of fire. Kakashi said. What's your name, miss? The woman seemed to contemplate the question and eventually answered. Graphia. Graphia Lucifuge. That's a strange name. Where are you from? Sakura interrupted, and can you explain why you don't have chakra? Seeing the woman tense up again, Naruto decided it was time to step in. His teammate and sensei were interrogating her as if she were a prisoner, barraging her with questions immediately after awakening to catch her off guard, and that didn't sit right with him. Naruto released some of his warm, comfortable chakra, instantly cutting through the tense situation. Naruto stepped ahead of his comrades and sat next to Graphia. Kakashi-sensei, let me speak to her. He gave them a pleading look. Hiya miss. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. How are ya? He grinned at her, hoping to loosen some of her cautiousness. He was never one for interrogation tactics and mind games. Naruto preferred to just talk and make friends with people. Naruto's approach seemed to have worked, as Graphia scooted a bit closer to him. She usually would never commit such a foolish mistake, but Graphia was out of her element here. She was fighting against the anti-Satan faction alongside her brother when a freak spell had knocked her out. She had then woken up in a strange land, where she could not sense a single devil. The people who helped her used chakra instead and were treating her as a prisoner. She was no stranger to such techniques, after all. She knew not their power, nor their abilities or numbers. She needed to play it safe. So when the blonde boy told the others to stop questioning her, she felt thankful to him. He had a certain presence about him, something that was making her trust him. He was just so pure and bright, like the sun in an unfamiliar realm with her magic reserves depleted. Graphia latched on to the first person she thought she could trust. Graphia hoped that he wouldn't betray her, as she would be helpless to stop him. She wished she could find a way home to her brother and her family. And from that day onwards, Graphia would only talk to Naruto, no one else. They had gotten the full story from her, and Naruto had promised to try his best to help her. He had learned from previous experiences and promised things solely in his control, like trying his best. He would not let himself suffer such pain anymore. They had discovered, much to Graphia's sadness, that returning home was impossible for her. The toads also corroborated this theory, making the woman almost lose hope. It was Naruto who convinced her that she could create new bonds here, that she could find new precious people in this world, and Naruto would help her. Since then, Graphia had found that he was one of the few remaining members of the Uzumaki clan and the de facto heir. She felt as if she owed her life to Naruto and hence had pledged service to him. Naruto had firmly refused, stating that he did not want a servant of any kind. He just asked her to find her own path, nothing more. The next few years were the best years of Naruto's life, as he had found someone to spend the rest of his life with. Hokage-sama. Graphia scolded, you zoned out again. Huh, what? Naruto said, snapping out of his thoughts. Ah, sorry, I was just thinking about how we met, you know. He gave a soft smile, and how lucky I was to have met you. Naruto looked at her lovingly. Stop trying to distract me, husband. Graphia cursed herself for stuttering, but she could tell that Naruto was honest in his words. He always was, and that was what made her feel giddy. Yes, you called me husband, Naruto cheered, happy to get one over his wife. Hokage-sama, do you want to become an ice sculpture? Grafia whispered, trying to quash her blush. She was getting impatient and was flaring her ice magic. The temperature of the room lowered slightly, making chills go up the ANBU spines. Naruto paled at the thought and created more clones to divide the work. The rest of the hour went without incident, mostly because Naruto wanted to get out of the monotonous office. The second he finished signing his last document, he went to his wife. There, I'm done. Can we please go on a date now? He pleaded while giving Grafia his version of the puppy dog eyes. Grafia didn't even need to think about it. His work was over, the documents were signed, and their last date was over 2 days ago. Of course, dear. Lead the way. She even gave him a small smile, now that she was off the clock. That was all the motivation he needed, as Naruto quickly embraced his wife and used Hiraishin to teleport home. The nightlife of Konoha had only improved in times of peace. The Seventh Reign marked a new age of the shinobi world, and most of the people were leading happy lives. It was in this setting that Naruto and Grafia had set out on their date. Naruto was wearing a blood orange dress shirt and black jeans, whereas his wife had donned a white turtleneck and blue jeans. They looked exactly like the power couple they were. The two were currently on their way to Ichiraku Ramen. While it might not be a date-worthy location for the general public, the restaurant held a special meaning for the couple. It was dear to Naruto's heart, as well as the place where he had his first date with his wife. The fact that his wife loved their ramen only helped Naruto decide to propose to her faster. Fia-chan, have I told you that you look super pretty today? Yes, you did. This is the third time, dear, she chuckled. Well, you're just so pretty that telling you once isn't enough, you know. Naruto grinned. How original, husband, Grafia said, rolling her eyes. I thought you liked it when I paid you compliments. Naruto muttered sadly, but if not, I'll stop. No, Grafia instantly retorted but schooled her features. You shouldn't change your behavior on my account. She coughed and looked away, a mild blush on her pale cheeks. It's not like I mind it, she whispered. Contrary to popular belief, Grafia loved it when Naruto complimented her, as his words were always sweet and honest. Her heart beat faster whenever he called her pretty and her stomach did a flip whenever he proclaimed his love for her. Which was several times per day, much to her delight. She'd never admit this in public, though. Her pride as the Hokage's secretary was at stake. What would the management community think of her unprofessional attitude? The people of Konoha already thought her a cold and calculating woman. Her reputation would be ruined.
Also, only Naruto was allowed to say such sweet things to her without being turned into an icicle.
That's so adorable. Naruto pulled his wife closer, an arm around her shoulder. I'll give you double praise from tomorrow, believe it. Grafia's cheeks tinged red at Naruto's loud words. People across the street were staring at them, whispering and cheerfully waving at their Hokage and First Lady. She gave everyone a respectful nod while Naruto boisterously smiled and waved back at them. Now that he finally had the village's respect, he was basking in the limelight. It's Hokage-sama and Grafia-sama. Ichiraku, are they on a date? How romantic.
Why don't you look at me like he looks at his wife? A woman asked her husband, then slapped him on the back of his head for staring at Grafia.
He was not the only one. Grafia was undoubtedly the most beautiful woman in Konoha, so she had many admirers. Too bad they would have to get through Naruto first. Just like Naruto's fangirls were often scared away by his irate wife. There were some disadvantages of being Konoha's poster couple. Everyone's looking at my beautiful wife. Naruto shouted, conveniently ignoring his own fangirls. I'm gonna scare them away. You will do no such thing, Hokage-sama. Grafia sternly admonished while dragging Naruto towards Ichiraku. The last thing they needed was a scene. Ah, are we back to calling me Hokage-sama again? It is only appropriate in a public setting, Hokage-sama.
Naruto sighed as he was led along by his wife. We're on a date, Grafia. Please, call me by my name. It feels like there's a distance between us when you call me Hokage-sama, and I don't like it, he said seriously. He did not want to be addressed so formally on a date by his wife, it just felt weird.
I'm surprised you could construct such a complicated sentence, Naruto-sama. Grafia retorted calmly, a small smirk on her face. Naruto stared flatly at his wife, suppressing a smile. She referred to him by his name and insulted him in the same sentence. He loved her so much. She was so smart. Call me Naruto-kun and I'll take the insult, he cut in glibly. Grafia tucked a strand of silver hair behind her ear and averted her eyes. Okay, Naruto-kun, she said, looking very shy. She wasn't used to such casual behavior in public, but it was exciting. Naruto's eyes widened and he bounced in place. Too cute, must not hug. He dramatically used his left hand to stop his right, which was moving to glump Grafia.
That's it, I'm out. Don't wake me up unless someone attacks the village. Kurama grumbled before cutting their link. He knew Naruto well enough to escape the cuteness before it escalated.
Grafia easily dodged the hand and grabbed it. Let us away, husband. She sniffed and began leading him away. Ooh, what fancy language. HMPH. They arrived at Ichiraku Ramen, which had expanded to adapt to the new customers which Naruto's fame brought. Since he and his wife were regulars, they had a perpetual reservation in the restaurant. Welcome to Ichiraku Ramen o, Hokage-sama. Ayame greeted brightly, smiling at the sight of Naruto. The blonde just whined. Nei-chan, it's bad enough with this one, but not you too. He pointed accusingly at his wife. Ayame giggled into her sleeve, giving the couple an amused glance. Naruto-kun, are you here for your date? Yeah. Do you have a table for two, Ichiraku-san? Ayame chuckled at Grafia's usual formality, long since used to it. Even though they had a standing reservation, she still confirmed every time. Yes, we do. Please follow me, she said and led them to their booth. Naruto rushed past Grafia and gestured to her seat, bowing slightly. Milady. He looked very pleased with himself at his manners. Grafia just deadpanned at him, standing in place. You're supposed to pull my chair for me, dear. Just saying, milady, serves no purpose. Naruto blinked. But, it's a booth, he said sheepishly. Then why even say it? I didn't think that far ahead. Okay. He pouted. I wanted to act all gentlemanly, you know. Grafia smiled softly at this. Even after years of marriage, Naruto still tried so hard to make her feel special and keep the spark alive. He succeeded tremendously, of course. The little things he did, from pulling her chair to giving her random flowers, made her love him all the more. And now he was sulking, which made Grafia frown. While she did love all his little gestures, she should be doing a better job of letting him know. She didn't want to appear ungrateful, which was far from the truth. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. I'm flattered, she said happily. My husband is such a gentleman. Grafia kissed him on the cheek and took her seat. She spotted the faint pink on his whiskered cheeks and smirked victoriously. She resolved to show him more affection from now on. Well. Naruto stuttered. Let's eat, shall we? He said, hurriedly taking a seat and burying his face in the menu. What'll you have, Fia-chan? His voice was much lower than one would expect from him. They ordered their food, but Naruto still hadn't looked up from his menu. Cute. Grafia decided to tease him a little. Is my darling husband getting shy? Grafia cooed, relishing in Naruto's embarrassment. How adorable. Naruto jumped a bit as he buried his red cheeks deeper into the menu. Where's this coming from, Grafia? What was this? His wife never called him adorable in public, nor did she show much affection. He was used to her disposition by now, as she was a very professional and private person. But he didn't completely hate this side of her. You always say such thoughtful things to me. I just thought I'd return the favor. She then gained a sly smile. Don't you like it, beloved? Oh Kami, my heart. You can't just spring this on me, you know. Naruto lamented inwardly, as he was stabbed by a large pink arrow with beloved written on it. You are K.
Naruto, even with all his might and fame, still got very bashful when someone actually praised him or paid him a genuine compliment. Words of love by his wife were very rare in public, so they were super effective. For all his attention-seeking in his childhood, Naruto's inability to accept praise was endearing to his wife.
Ooh, and just like that, Naruto's brain turned to mush and he rebooted. Death threats and curses of hatred were fine, but this was too sudden. Grafia giggled at her slumped husband. If you can dish it, you have to be able to take it, dear. Naruto recovered and scratched his whisker marks. I'm sorry. I'm just not used to hearing such things from you, you know. Grafia looked sad at that, her self-consciousness resurfacing. I know I don't say such things a lot, it's difficult for me. She had been raised from birth to serve the Lucifer clan, like many of her family. She had no experience speaking so informally to anyone, especially her husband who was also her superior. In private, she opened up and could express herself properly, but it was difficult in public. I know, honey, and I love you exactly how you are. See? I want to be able to say such things in public to you, to tell you that I love you or compliment you effortlessly as you do to me, she mumbled timidly. But you say things like that all the time at home. Grafia sighed in exasperation. Why did he have to be so understanding and selfless? That's at home, where it's just the two of us. She blushed slightly. I want to hug you in public, or shout out, that's my husband, like you do. Naruto put down his menu as their food arrived. After they were alone again, he reached across the table and gently took a hold of Grafia's hand. Fia-chan, listen to me. When she looked at him, he continued, it's who you are, and I don't want you to change just because I behave a certain way. You're so professional and strict. Do you want me to become like you? I want you to take your work seriously, but not to change completely, she retorted. His exuberance was one of the things she loved, and it would be bad if he became cold and stoic like her. That's how I feel. And since you're not used to public affection, you give the cutest reactions, you know. Naruto grinned and then gripped her hand tighter. Besides, I like being the only one to see that side of you. It makes me feel special.
Grafia's eyes widened as his words registered. It was another way to look at things. He felt special because only he could see her caring side. That was a big relief to her. She had nothing to worry about. Her husband was amazing. He would never hold her personality against her, and it was one of the many things which made her love him. The thought warmed her heart and brought a happy smile to her face.
I love you so much, Naruto-kun, Grafia spoke softly, tucking her hair behind her ear. You're the best husband a woman could ask for. She smiled shyly, averting her eyes. It was a stark contrast to her office persona, which made it extremely cute. The Hokage's eyes widened as he heard her. This had to be the first time that Grafia said those words in a public setting, albeit quietly. One look at his wife told him exactly how difficult it must have been for her to say it. She was looking from side to side, fiddling with her chopsticks and picking at her food. Seeing as she was very vulnerable, Naruto decided not to tease her and instead replied from the heart. Naruto kissed the back of the hand he was holding. I love you, Grafia-chan, believe it. You're the best wife too, he said with a gentle smile, which made her blush even darker. It was getting really difficult not to tease her, but Naruto managed to resist. The rest of their date progressed marvelously, and the couple went home hand in hand, with their love reaching new heights. Flashback how they got together. Naruto, do you like anyone? When Sakura asked the question, everyone inside Ichiraku, along with everyone on the street outside, ground to a dead stop. It was the only question that mattered to many young girls nowadays. Whom did Naruto Uzumaki like? The hero of the shinobi world was the #1 eligible bachelor in the elemental nations, with many admirers vying for his affections. His horde of fangirls outnumbered all the great shinobi before him. Hashirama and Tobirama Senju, Hiruzen Sarutobi and even Minato Namikaze. Naruto was simply the most popular shinobi ever. So it was understandable that Sasuke, Sai, Tuchi, Ayame and pretty much the entire block came to a screeching halt to finally get the answer they were waiting for. Unbeknownst to them, a certain silver-haired devil was also nearby and had stopped to listen to Naruto's answer. Dozens of heads watched in anticipation as Naruto finished slurping up his ramen and looked to Sakura. Huh? What did you say, Sakura-chan? The medic simply repeated, used to his knuckle-headed behavior by now. I asked you if there is anyone you like. She knew that Naruto no longer had his crush on her as he had moved on before the war started. She was bored and just wanted something to gossip about with Ino. I like lots of people, Sakura-chan. Naruto grinned, completely missing the point. No, you idiot. I meant in a romantic sense. That gave Naruto pause, along with all the spectators. He had never thought about it in detail. When he was a child, a small part of him doubted if he would ever find anyone, whether anyone would even want him. Those were the worst times, feeling unwanted and undeserving of love. But then he found his bonds, his precious people. They filled the hole in his heart which a life of loneliness had created. For a while, it was enough. Gigi, Ba-chan, Aro Senin, and his team were all family. He would cherish them forever. But at the same time, Naruto wanted a family of his own. He wanted children to spoil and love so that he could give them everything he hadn't received. He wanted someone to settle down with, a wife to spend the rest of his life with. He wanted all those things, but he hadn't the slightest idea of how to go about it. His fangirls listened in earnest, eager to find out who Naruto-sama liked. "Oh," he said, looking contemplative, "no, I don't like anyone right now, not romantically at least."
All those shallow enough to not notice the somber tone in his voice left the scene, squealing and giggling happily. Only those close to him remained, and grew concerned.
Sai, who was adept at reading emotional cues, figured out that Naruto was sad. He didn't know why, though. Tucci and Ayame frowned slightly, as they knew exactly what Naruto was thinking. He had confided in the shop owners quite a bit during his childhood, after all. Sakura and Sasuke also caught on to this, but they had no idea what to do. Blaming herself for making Naruto sad, Sakura decided to just power through the situation. It was how Naruto worked best and she knew it. "Well, all right then, I'll help you," she exclaimed, earning a quizzical look from Sasuke. Grafia had sat down next to the group, seen by everyone except Naruto, who was back to devouring his ramen. "How? Ino gave me this list of questions to ask for finding out who you like and stealing their heart."
Sasuke gave a derisive scoff. "Useless. If you want to get a man, stop being so violent."
He was promptly bopped on the head by an irate Sakura. "It's not useless." Then she blushed in embarrassment, "And I'm not violent." "Please continue, ugly," Sai spoke, and just looked at the oncoming fist blankly as he too was punched. Point proven. Sakura restrained herself and spoke. "Naruto, clear your mind completely and answer the questions. You have to answer instantly, okay?" she said, getting a nod from Naruto. "What hair color do you like?" Naruto was in thought, and a mop of beautiful silver hair flashed through his head. Silver. Grafia perked up in the background, looking almost hopeful. She had made it no secret that she was in love with her savior, but the boy was dense as a brick. The devil had been in love with Naruto for years, ever since he helped rehabilitate her. She had tried everything short of telling him outright, but her conditioning and ethics would never permit such a thing. Sai, of course, missed the point completely. "I knew it, you are attracted to the Hokage. As your teammate, I support you on this journey." He gave a supportive thumbs up but was ignored by everyone. Sai noted it down under the maybe section of things to say in public. Sakura pressed on. "And do you like girls with long hair?" "Yes." Naruto replied instantly. He always had. Grafia ran a finger through her long silver locks, still unnoticed by Naruto for some reason. "And your favorite eye color?" "Silver." Sasuke visibly sighed in relief, along with the rest of the audience. Kakashi's eyes were black. "Now, shortlisting. Is there any girl with these criteria in your circle?" Sakura grinned. "Come to think of it, Grafia-chan has all those things," Naruto exclaimed. "So I like Grafia-chan." He tilted his head in confusion. Grafia palmed her face in agitation, still unseen by Naruto. How he became the most powerful shinobi in the nations, she'd never know. "You can't ask us that, idiot," Sakura snapped, then realized that she was talking to Naruto. He needed to be guided through this, or he'd never understand. "Do you think she's beautiful?" "Yeah, totally." Grafia looked away, lest they see her blush. She knew Naruto was tactless, but wasn't this a bit too brazen? Was this how courting progressed? Sasuke saw her plight and smirked. He knew that Grafia was smitten with the loser, and it appeared to be mutual. There was plenty of taunt material to be found here. "So, would you date her?" Naruto paused. Would he date her? She was extremely beautiful, so he guessed he was attracted to her. She was also kind, nice, caring and strong. There wasn't really anything he didn't like about her. But did she even like him in the first place? If not, this discussion was moot. He thought about it for a few minutes and then spoke. "I mean, I would like to, but why would she date me?" He spoke confusedly and a touch sadly. "There are plenty of better guys out there, you know." What an idiot. Kurama too was getting fed up. Grafia, who was on cloud 9 after hearing the first part, was now close to wringing his neck from behind. This denseness was too much. She wanted to freeze Naruto so badly for being an idiot, right before hugging him for liking her back. Sakura knew that she was almost there. So if she wanted to date you, you would go on a date with her, she prodded. Naruto scratched his cheek and replied, I guess. If she wanted to, I would gladly agree, but I don't see that happening. So, you'd need a signal? Sakura asked, looking at Graphia suggestively, an indisputable signal that she likes you. Uh-huh. Sakura had the most menacing grin ever on her face. Look behind you. Naruto felt a trepidation bubbling in his chest, and he slowly turned around. Graphia-chan. Greetings, Naruto-sama. Naruto laughed nervously. So you heard all that, huh? He said with a mild blush. I did. And I'm giving you a signal, she said bluntly, then pulled him into a tender embrace, making him squeak.
She laid her head against the crook of his neck, shuffling in nervousness. Much to her delight, his arms shortly wrapped themselves around her, holding her gently. Graphia snuggled into him further, forgetting their audience, delighted after he did the same. They were lost in the moment, content in each other's arms. She was brought out of her trance when Sakura cleared her throat.
After she released him with a red face, an equally red-faced Naruto squirmed nervously and asked her, So, will you go out with me? He looked away, fidgeting slightly. He was uncharacteristically shy, which conveyed exactly how vulnerable he was. For Naruto Uzumaki to stutter, the situation was serious. I thought you'd never ask. She smiled, and they started planning for their date. Little did they know, it was the start of a lifelong love.
Rias Grimori was staring at the paper in front of her with an unidentifiable gaze. When her bishop had delivered the news to her, she was not sure what to think. The redhead simply opted for asking the bearer of the report for insight.
It appears that a student from our school has been killed, Kuroka. The one spoken to was Rias' bishop, Kuroka Taju. She was a beautiful woman with long black hair and a matching black kimono. Her hazel eyes were twinkling with mirth, as they often did, accompanied by her teasing smirk. Kuroka also had 2 black cat ears and 2 tails, signifying her Nekosho heritage. Bucko, they killed Issei because they saw him as dangerous. Should we be worried, NYA? I don't see any reason to be. He did not give off any kind of energy. Because he died in our territory, NYA? Kuroka asked confusedly, aren't you worried that there are rogue fallen here? Rias just steeped her fingers and laid her chin in her hands. I've been aware of them for a long time, my cute servant. She smirked, I just needed to know where they were located, and now I do. Kuroka blinked. So, you used him as bait? No, I didn't know that Issei was even a target, but it worked out. My parents would be disappointed in me if I actively bartered in lives like that.
Why did you not scout him for your peerage then? Kuroka tilted her head in confusion. And why would I? Rias argued back, I have no reason to scout members as of now. Papa has told me to concentrate on my studies and have fun. She said proudly with a happy smile.
That sounds boring, NYA. Kuroka deadpanned as she stretched on the couch. Yeah, then she sat cross-legged and asked, I thought that you would be in an arranged marriage you hate, and the new servant would save you gallantly like in those anime you like. Kuroka teased with a cat-like grin. Shut up, Kuroka. Rias snapped with red cheeks, and for your information, I would be in a marriage contract right now if it weren't for Papa, she huffed. Oh. With whom, Rias-sama? A new voice asked, making the two look at the door. The one who had entered looked a lot like Kuroka, except for a shorter height and leaner build. She also had white hair instead of Kuroka's black. She was also wearing a Kuo Academy uniform like Rias. Shiron-chan. Kuroka cheered and glumped the shorter girl. Give your big sister a hug, NYA. Shiron simply giggled and returned her embrace, making Kuroka's tails wag. Hi, Nate-chan. Kuroka moved her so that she was sitting in her big sister's lap and started playing with her fluffy white ears. Nate-chan. I'm 15, NYA. Stop that, she complained while trying not to purr. Kuroka paid her no mind and continued stroking her hair with a dopey grin. Shiron just sighed and turned to Rias. So, who would the contract have been with? Rias's good mood deflated instantly as she grimaced. Riser Phoenix, she said with the most disgusted look she could muster. That asshole, sorry. Shiron winced as she was flicked on the ear with a cry of, language, from Kuroka. That idiot. What happened? Sharon was extremely interested to know how Rias dodged that cannonball. Rias gained a proud smirk. My father stopped it, she declared and raised her chin haughtily. The Phoenix had gone to him before I was born, to forge a union for the good of devil kind, she mocked while making air quotes. And then? Sharon asked, invested in the tale. HMPH. What else? Papa kicked them out the door. He said, my little girl will marry whoever she chooses. The good of devil kind does not take priority over her wishes. And when they tried to get political, he showed them who's boss. Rias pumped her fist in the air, eyes sparkling with pride. Yua, Sharon clasped her hands with stars in her eyes, so cool. Right? Right? Rias nodded her head fervently. Her father was indeed very cool. As expected of Oto-sama, Kuroka said happily, still petting Sharon's head. When she heard this, Rias gained a tick mark on her head. Don't call him that. He's my dad, not yours, she sniffed with supreme arrogance. Oya. Is someone getting possessive? Kuroka teasingly jibed, making Rias flush. But he told us that he considers us his daughters, right Sharon-chan? Hi, Nate-chan. Sharon nodded, making her short hair bob from the motion. He told me he loves me, that he'll always protect me, she trailed off with a beaming grin. It felt really good to know that someone loved you unconditionally and had your back always. Rias was shooting her a death glare, which Sharon ignored as she went into happy memory land. Kuroka also lost all sense of teasing and gained a soft smile on her lips. I still remember when he found us on the streets. He carried us home in his own 2 arms, fed us, cared for us, and loved us. She remembered fondly, I don't know where we would be without him, NYA. She looked Rias dead in the eye, with all the emotion a homeless, scared girl could have. If that's not a father, I don't know what is. After hearing those words from the heart, Rias' glare lost all heat. She just settled for pouting adorably at the cat sisters. Why did her father have the habit of adopting every lonely kid he came across? Her position as his little girl was in danger.
She then scoffed to herself. Who was she kidding? Her father would always love her, without a doubt. He loved their whole family deeply, and his taking in children in need was one reason he was the best dad in the world. She could make do with a couple of adorable siblings if she had such an awesome dad.
Era. Are we talking about Gremory-sama? Rias stiffened as she looked at her queen, who had entered. Akeno Himejima had the most innocent smile plastered on her face, a smile which screamed danger to anyone who knew her. I also owe my life to him, bucko. Akeno tilted her head. He is the reason my mother is alive, and I am on good terms with my father, after all. Akeno also had many good memories of Ria's father. He was the one who found us in time to save my mother and me, and he is very important to all of us. She then smirked at Rias, whose pout had only increased. Ufufu, is bucko jealous? Era, you're such a daddy's girl, Rias. She cupped her cheek with her palm and swayed slightly. Moo, Rias's cuteness was reaching critical levels, where she would probably have killed a lower-ranking being with sheer mo. She huffed in embarrassment, crossing her arms with a cute pout. Seeing her plight, Akeno decided to change her subject. What's this about a student dying? Rias showed her the paper and told her the plan to deal with the fallen. Have you contacted Azazel-sama, Rias? The Alliance will want to know about this. I have, but they are rogues anyway. We have the all-clear to wipe them out, Rias said. Even though the supernatural world was in a golden age of peace, such conflicts and rogue cells popped up from time to time. All right then. We shall deal with them. Akeno nodded. Where are Yuto and Gasper? Sharon piped up, still in Kuroka's lap. Oh, they're sparring, NYA. Gaspy needs to fight without relying on his sacred gear, so he is learning kenjutsu. Understood. Call them up. We move tonight. So, please work with us on this. The Alliance has decreed as such. Rias and her peerage looked at the 2 exorcists that were seated in the orc room, Irina and Zenobia, along with a nun. They were here to retrieve stolen Excalibur fragments, which were stolen by the fallen angel Kokebeel. The man had been branded a traitor by the Alliance but had fled before being tried for his crimes. Rias looked at her knight, who was standing beside her with a blank look on his face. It must be difficult for him, with his history with the Excalibur. She was about to ask him to leave, when. I agree, bucko. Let us do the needful, he said seriously, surprising Rias. Are you sure, Yuto? Rias asked hesitantly, with your his. I need this, Rias-sama. He cut her off. I've realized that revenge is not the answer, and I need closure. He clenched his fist and stared at her with resolve. Dad must have spoken to him sometime. He's really matured, she mused. All right, as you say. Akeno pointed at the small nun sitting next to Irina. Anyo, who is that? The nun jerked upright in shock and poked her fingers together shyly. Apologies. My name is Asia Argento. I am here as support for my friends and to heal them if they get hurt. She blushed brightly when Irina patted her on the head. Asia has the Twilight Healing Sacred Gear, which is vital for a mission like this one, Zenobia said, making Rias nod in understanding. Kuroka had a question. However, you would even heal us, NYA? A nun willing to heal a devil. Now she'd seen everything. Asia nodded fiercely, determination in her eyes. Of course. We are all allied now, it is natural. Since the three factions were in a formal alliance, such joint operations were pretty commonplace. Rias decided to steer the conversation back to the topic. Anyway, let us plan a course of action. How convenient for both devil heiresses to be in one place. I shall slay you with haste. Kokebiel cackled maliciously as he stared at the group of downed devils with all the hatred he could muster. Soon, the world will be bathed in the flames of war. Kokebiel was and always had been a warmonger. Peace among the supernaturals just didn't sit right with him. What was life without conflict and strife? The Grigori had gotten complacent under that fool Azazel, and they were dallying and making friends in the name of peace. Unacceptable. The Fallen were the strongest faction, and he would prove it. He would usher in a new age where they reigned supreme, and Kokebiel himself would lead them towards this glorious goal. Though I have to admit, you were stronger than I had expected. Not a match for me, of course, but still. He snarked arrogantly, looking at the corpses of Fried and Valpier. When he had initially thought that he'd win easily, it had not been so. The Sea-Tree girl's peerage was normal, but the Gremory girl's peerage had proven to be very meddlesome. The two cats were capable of senjutsu. The queen was able to use Barraqueel's holy lightning. The bishop was in possession of the forbidden Balor view, and the knight was a formidable swordsman with sword birth, which had even attained balance breaker. Even the redhead herself was proficient in the power of destruction. Kokebiel had only been able to win by sacrificing both his underlings, but he had won. The pests were all on their last legs, and it would take but one attack to exterminate them. Rias glared at him with intense hate while clutching her broken ribs. It's because we've been training extensively with our abilities. There are no shortcuts to being strong, she declared resolutely. Kokebiel just laughed mockingly. And that is where you're wrong, girl. Power comes only to those blessed by fate, to those with talent. For however hard you might train, you still fell short of my might, he boasted.
Akeno limped towards Rias, just as injured. Luckily, due to Asia's help, there had been no casualties, but they were all pretty battered. I still don't understand why you told me not to contact your brother, Bushu. Rias just looked away, clenching her fists. It's because I'm tired of being the princess or the damsel in distress, Akeno. I am tired of always needing someone to save me. She screamed, making Akeno's eyes widen. I wanted to prove that I can look after myself, that I can protect everyone on my own. She yelled angrily, with tears in her eyes.
Akeno looked at her king with concern and sadness. Rias. Their moment was interrupted by Kokebiel. How foolish, he mocked, smirking maliciously. If you had called for assistance, you might have won. Your pride will be your downfall, he shouted as he summoned a large number of light spears. As the devils and exorcists looked on helplessly at their inevitable death, Rias glanced at the necklace she was wearing and gripped it with resolve. It was a keepsake given to her by her father, with a unique seal engraved into it. She remembered what he'd told her while giving her the charm. I know you want to prove yourself, but I'm your father, you know. So don't be afraid to call me whenever you have no way out. I trust you, Rias. I know that you'll only use it after you've given it your best shot. I will always protect you, believe it. Smiling at the memory, Rias clutched the necklace tightly in her hand and channeled her magic into it, hoping desperately that she wasn't too late.
Sharon watched in horror as the hail of spears descended onto them like a personification of death. Her life flashed before her eyes, and she found that she had no regrets. She had an awesome big sister and an amazing family with whom she had spent the past years happily. Sharon closed her eyes as she resigned herself to her fate, awaiting her death.
When no such death came, she was surprised. She opened her eyes, only to be blinded by several rapid flashes of red. Sharon watched in shock as each spear was systematically destroyed by a corresponding flash. When the flashes of light died down, she was greeted with an unusual sight. There, standing in between Kokebile and their downed forms, was a single figure. The person had their back turned to them, but Sharon recognized him instantly. Not many people she knew had such deep crimson hair, after all. Oto-sama. It seemed that everyone else had also taken note of the newcomer and had various reactions. The exorcists and Sona's peerage straightened up in respect, bar Saji, who was new and didn't know the man. Kuroka, who had appeared at her sister's side to check on her, also had a happy smile at seeing the redhead. Akeno, Gasper, and Yuto sighed visibly in relief, a heavy burden off their shoulders. Rias had tears in her eyes as she clutched her necklace tightly, grinning and crying at the same time from all the exertion. Papa. The most telling reaction, by far, was from Kokebile himself. The man's pride and arrogance had bled out of him completely, and he was staring wide-eyed at the newcomer. Why you? He pointed a finger, positively trembling with fear. All semblance of bravado gone. The fallen could only look in shock as he desperately tried to gain his composure. The man who had appeared was a tall man who looked to be in his mid-20s, with a muscular build to emphasize speed over strength. He had spiky crimson hair, sparkling azure eyes, and 3 faint whisker-like marks on his cheeks. He was wearing a formal black suit. Why are you here, Naruto Gremory? Kokebile shouted, trying to appear strong. Have you come to be cut down by me as well? Naruto simply looked at him, looked hard. Kokebile started sweating in nervousness, fearing his response. The redhead simply ignored the fallen and made a beeline straight for Rias and the others. Reaching the downed kids, he was immediately tackled in a flying glomp by 3 multicolored blurs. He looked down to see Kuroka, Sharon, and Rias hugging him tightly, sobbing into his chest. Even Akeno joined the group hug with a smile. I thought I was going to die. Sharon wept as she clutched his suit tightly. You saved us, Nya, Kuroka said as she, too, hugged Naruto. Foolish. Kokebile shouted as he readied an attack, but he found Naruto looking at him over his shoulder. One of the redhead's eyes was deep crimson with a slitted pupil, and it looked wrong. Kokebile found himself rooted to his place in fear, unable to move a muscle. Such power. To freeze me with but a glance. Naruto looked at his daughter, who was hugging him but looking away from him. Gently tilting her head to face him, Rias still averted her eyes. Rias-chan, look at me. His fatherly tone only served to bring more tears to Rias' eyes. She was disappointed in herself. She had failed to protect those who were precious to her and had to rely on her father to bail her out. Again. She was a failure. She didn't deserve to be the heiress. I'm sorry, Papa. She cried as she clung on to him for dear life. I couldn't beat him. I couldn't protect everyone. Rias bowed her head in shame. She was a failure, a disappointment. She had trained so hard, sacrificed so much, yet she still couldn't protect her family with her own power. If her father hadn't appeared when he did, they all would have died. She was snapped out of her thoughts when she felt a hand pat her head. She looked up to see her father smiling softly at her. You did well, sweetie. I'm proud of you. The simple words brought immense happiness and relief to the young girl's mind as she bit her lip to quell the fresh tears that had started falling. You sit back and relax, okay? Let your father take care of this one. Naruto grinned, poking Ria's forehead. The girl weakly nodded and went towards her peerage to recuperate. Naruto turned to where Kokebile was flying, and his smile turned into a snarl. The fallen flinched at the sheer rage emanating from the redhead until he felt it. Death. Kokebile froze in midair as the overwhelming presence of dread washed over him. He had only felt such intense bloodlust once in his life before, when he had faced this very man in combat. This killing intent, overwhelming. The spectators, who were all children, had dropped to the ground from the sheer weight of the pressure, even though it wasn't directed at them. Who is that guy? Saji shouted, trembling in shock. Sona pushed up her glasses and looked at him, sweating mildly from the pressure. That guy, as you crudely referred to him, is Ria's father. Lord Naruto Gremory, the head of the Gremory clan, she said, making her pawn pale in fright. But why is Kokabeel so scared of him? Lord Gremory is the most powerful devil in the world. Xenovia cut in. As an exorcist, it was her duty to be familiar with key figures of each faction. And Lord Gremory was one of the most famous. He can defeat Kokabeel with ease. Wait, the most powerful devil? Asia shyly said. Then why isn't he a Mao? That, I do not know. Akano glanced at Rias, who was looking away in embarrassment. Bucko. Rias looked at the group with a red face. He's not leading because he wants to spend his life traveling the world with my mother and eat every kind of ramen in existence, she mumbled, burying her face in her hands. For all the power her father held, his reason for not leading the underworld was lame. Very lame. But he advises the Mao from time to time, she retorted weakly, trying to save face. While this conversation was taking place, Naruto was having one of his own. So, Kokabeel, he drawled, picking at his nails. Why are you doing this? Kokabeel went on a long tirade about the glorious war, but Naruto was somewhere else mentally. Finally, a decent fight, Kurama roared in his mind. Years of your ramen tours and cutesy talks with your wife have made me sick, he grinned menacingly. Naruto just gave the fox a flat look. I could always summon you out, ya know. You could go play with the dragons in the mountains, he clapped his hands gleefully. As if, Kurama scoffed, those lizards are weak. And you think this guy is strong? Well, thought so. How insufferable. Even when you reincarnated, I am stuck with you. Kurama huffed. I've grown bored after centuries of peace. Hey, look on the bright side, at least I got red hair this time. Naruto boasted as he ran a hand through his magnificent crimson locks. What an imbecile. Naruto just ignored his tenant and focused on the fallen, who was still mid-rant. He stared blankly at him and then shouted, Hey, idiot.
Kokabeel balked at the crude statement and looked fit to retort but then remembered who was speaking. What? You made 2 mistakes, ya know. Then Naruto vanished in a flash, leaving the spectators to look around wildly.
Naruto appeared behind Kokabeel, with a punch aimed at his face. Mistake when you attacked my kids. The blow connected with the weight of a falling star and Kokabeel had no room to dodge. He was sent crashing down to the earth, where a huge explosion accompanied his arrival. He tried to get up, but Naruto was upon him again, his foot on Kokabeel's back. Oof, he struggled, unable to move. He looked up at Naruto, who was glaring down at him. And mistake 2, your timing could not possibly be any worse. Naruto hissed angrily. You know what I was doing before Rias called me? Naruto asked, only to receive no reply from the scared fallen. Do you? He thundered, making the poor fallen shake his head meekly. I'll tell ya. Naruto then cupped his cheeks dramatically, swaying from side to side. My darling Vene-chan had made ramen for me, he trailed off, a bit of drool escaping from his lips. Then his expression turned murderous again. My beautiful, amazing wife had made special homemade ramen with her own hands. Naruto stomped his foot down, making Kokabeel's spine crack. For me. Another stomp, another cry of pain. And you're the reason it's all cold now. Naruto stomped his foot again, confusing Kokabeel a lot, even in his state of excruciating pain. The spectators had different reactions. What? Tsubaki muttered, not entirely understanding the situation. He's screwed. Rias' entire peerage deadpanned simultaneously. Naruto looked at the downed Kokabeel underneath his foot. Bakabeel, he began, causing some of the kids to giggle. I was planning on flexing a bit since the kids are here, you know. Naruto then materialized a truth-seeking orb and smashed it downwards. But you're not worth it. Kurama will have to sit this one out. He whispered coldly as the fallen angel disintegrated before his eyes. The spectacle was observed by the devils, shocking them tremendously. Sona looked wide-eyed and turned to Rias. He destroyed Kokabeel in an instant. What technique was that? Her thirst for knowledge was acting up, eyes practically sparkling in excitement. Such power, such destruction, she gushed, breaking her composure momentarily. Rias just stuck her tongue out at her friend. Secret, she smirked. Spoil sport. Sona grumbled as she looked away. Saji just gulped and stepped back, glad that this monster hadn't heard his earlier disrespect. By then, Kokabeel was done away with, and Naruto turned to the devil kids. With a grin and a cheery wave, he greeted them. Yo. The Gremory Peerage and Naruto were sitting in the Orc room 2 hours after the incident. Since it was all sanctioned, there had been no legal complications to speak of. They had repaired the school, and the exorcists had gone off to report to their superiors. Naruto was sitting on the couch next to Chiron, petting her head as she slept. The kids were all exhausted, and Chiron and Gasper had conked out, being the smallest of them. "Naruto-sama, would you like some tea?" Akano chirped from beside him, kettle in hand. "Yep." Naruto blew on it tenderly as he drank the tea, eyes widening at the flavor. "This is amazing, Akano-chan." He patted her head as well, making her sputter in embarrassment. "Naruto-sama." The normally elegant queen squeaked with a red face. "What?" Naruto grinned cheekily. "You kids are just so cute, you know." He stroked Chiron's hair softly, making her purr in her sleep. Adorable, he enjoyed teasing the children immensely. Before Akano could be further embarrassed, a jealous Rias cut in. "Papa."
Yes, Rias-chan. Naruto looked at her, smiling. Well. She trailed off, unsure of what to say. She had just interrupted to get his attention but had no plans on what to do with it.
"Oto-sama, are you coming to the open house?" Kuroka asked from across the room, saving Rias. She was also lying down on a couch by herself. "Of course. I wouldn't miss it for the world." Naruto pumped his fist in the air. "I wonder what chaos everyone will cause together under one roof." Ooh, he giggled with gleaming eyes. Review, please. Thanks for watching, guys.